obviously you see a ton of bots coming in, right?
Yes.
So I think I could ask a couple of questions that's from your expertise in there. So top 3 best UX principles that you've seen so far.
Top 3 best, I would say personality is key. Segmenting your users and your audience is definitely a best practice. And then breaking up the conversation a little bit. Like I said, nobody likes the pings. So short snippets of, like, think about it like you're texting your friend, right? Instead of like this long, huge paragraph of, content, you might send like a snippet of content and then just like throw in like a UI element that says, hey, what do you think about this? Or like leading them down that rabbit hole. And you'd be surprised, some people will come back to it after a while. They might not have the time to deal with that information. So it kind of gives them a break. And also using like GIFs and emojis and stuff, it just breaks up that. Because if you look at it, like, look at the textual context, and if it's gray and blue, the entire screen, people are just going to, basically blur out the feed, right? If there's like an image or some emojis or something, it's a little bit, you're going to evoke that emotion into the text. So that's, personality. And the big one, let me just dive into this real quick, but the big one is segmenting your audience. So, especially for like social good, right? If you can talk to me on a first name basis and that, I live in Texas and, but I'm from New York, or, that I really like helping, say animals, like animal shelters and things like that. You might be able to segment me and put me in like a category. And you might know that I really love dogs, but I don't like cats, right? So I'm not going to like go and help your, animal shelter if it's 90% cats.
Right.
Again, bad example, but knowing your audience, that's very crucial. So what I try to tell people is create like broadcast calendars. And in that calendar, you're sending out a broadcast and you're trying to figure out, you're doing that like fishing game of trying to figure out who your audience is. And then you put them into like this bucket. Yeah. And then afterwards, then you might send like 7 broadcasts a week, every day. But they're 2 different buckets. You see what I mean? So you're not annoying everybody. You're just letting one person know, on Monday about this one thing, or you're asking somebody on Tuesday a question, or you see what I mean? Like, you're trying to get this, you're trying to flow the content, and it's totally different than email marketing at that point, because, your email marketing, you can't have a conversation. You can only send stuff out. And that's it.
So something that I've really liked, and we're going to incorporate it into our bots as well, is, okay, so you start out the bot. Let's just say it's a nonprofit bot. It connects you. Its purpose is to connect you to the nonprofits around where you live. Yep. Okay. And so as soon as you get started, it'd be like, okay, which causes are you most passionate about? And one could be animals, one could be healthcare, one could be homelessness. And right off from there, it segments the audience. Yeah. And then you could connect the user's choice to the user attribute, which you can later on use to broadcast.
Correct.
And I've loved seeing that done in the front instead of after a couple of steps.
Right, definitely. I definitely like that being done in the front. It depends on how broad your niche is as well, or how small your niche is, right? For example, like that Hurricane Harvey bot, you might not need to do that because everybody is hurting for Hurricane Harvey. So maybe you might ask something like, hey, are you local to Houston, or are you outside the area? If you're local to Houston and they go down that rabbit hole, then you can ask different things like, do you need help? or or can you help people? Do you have a boat? Do you have supplies? Can you help in that manner? As to where if you're outside of Houston, hey, can you donate, or can you send supplies, or something like that. So segmenting, and I know that's like a one use case scenario, but if there was a hurricane bot, and it wasn't just designated to that one hurricane, it could have been used for the 5 hurricanes that hit land this year, the main ones anyways. So that's why you kind of have to think about a scalability issue, and have to think about how people are going to use it as well.
Absolutely. Hey, so now you've gone over the 3 best things, right? And obviously then we have to go to the inverse, right? What are the 3 don't ever do this? This is the most annoying, like this is terrible. But we're going to go a little bit further from that and say, don't do this and do this instead. Right.
I mean, we kind of covered one already.
Yes.
The pings and stuff. I would say that's probably the most annoying thing, because nobody really likes getting annoyed like that. It's like, your great aunt, your great uncle is texting you like 17 times, and it could have been just been done in one one text. Things like that. I would say are pretty annoying. So let's see. What don't you do? Oh man, put me on the spot. If we're only focusing on Messenger or a textual kind of bot, I would say, definitely don't try to always sell me something. If it's for social good, definitely don't ask me all the time to donate. Like that's annoying. It's more about like that Gary V's kind of like jab, 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 and then jab some more, and then maybe right hook, right? So if you want to like ask for something, it's more like provide value, figure out who your audience is. So that's how I would say handle that. Don't always ask for things, but maybe provide some value, and provide some more value, and be like, and then maybe ask for something if you need something. And when you do ask for things, like we're talking conversational interfaces that are super easy to do. Like the other day I sent out a broadcast, and it was like, hey, I just need your help. Like 30 seconds of your time. Do you like A or B? And that was it. And you would be surprised who answers to that. Just because they know you're putting that in a time frame. It's only going to take like 10 seconds, not even. And this could really help us. And if you have great fans, then they'll help you out. So there's 2. Third one. Third one is definitely put in basically an unsubscribe or a stop, or some sort of like, testing the waters kind of feature. Because if you annoy people, they're going to have more hatred for you. And, so the way I would handle this is like, if they're annoyed with it, you have to provide some sort of like, hey, I'm really sorry we annoyed you. We're just, it's a new technology, or it's a new, it's a new bot, and we're just trying to work out the kinks. I'm so sorry. We didn't really mean to annoy you. We'll stop sending you broadcasts, things like that. And generally what happens is, what we find is that people, even though they know it's a bot, if you call them out on, say, they're cussing or any sort of bad behavior, generally they'll be like, oh, sorry. No big deal. Even though you're talking to a bot, like, sorry, I didn't mean to be an a-hole about it, but, I was just getting annoyed.
Did you watch Cloud Atlas?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. No, there's this part where this guy keeps abusing the bot. But by then they're robots. Anyways, there was like a similar thing where she's like, I will not be abused. And he's like, oh, okay.
I throw in actually a little thing to kind of know is like, I don't do the default answers. So if you use like a bot building platform like Chatfuel or ManyChat, I actually just delete the default. Because what I do is I handle like a 2-week like hand holding period, because you don't want the bot to like always say, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, because that's going to get annoying and people are just going to be like, well, F you, I'm done with this. So I just delete the default, and because sometimes you open it up and it comes like with a template or whatever. And I just kind of go through the chat logs and I just see, okay, what are people asking for? How are they failing? Where are they stopping at this point? And then I throw in like little AI snippets of like, hey, AI rules. Hey, if they spelled menu wrong, right? If they wanted to get to the menu, but they spelled it wrong, throw in that snippet, like throw in how they're going to spell that wrong into the AI rule and just serve them up the menu.
Yeah.
Or,
like if someone says F you, if you can say F you too, that'd be really funny.
On one of my earlier bots, I did like if they would cuss, if they would say anything like that, I would say, oh my God, with all these tears, my gears are rusting. And people would get a kick out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my background is actually I was in the video game industry for like 4 years. And there's a game called Borderlands. And there's a smart ass robot on there. And I mean, think about it. What are the most popular robots in our time? R2D2, C3PO, like some of those, like, Wall-E, like some bots that have some humor to them, because you're breaking down that machine and you're saying, okay, this machine actually has some humor. And if you throw in that humor, generally it's going to be a good reception.
And what are you using to analyze your bot? Are you using Dashbot or what are you using?
I use a couple different things. I'm using Dashbot. I do use bot analytics because I have multiple bots. So I test out different platforms. For the most part, I just kind of every now and then go into like Messenger and go into the message logs and see what, people are doing and stuff like that. So, I think my next thing I personally want to build, it's really hard for me to find the time, but I really want to build an Amazon Alexa skill. That's my next thing. And, work with Dialogflow.